Chats of the Twisted. My name is Celinda. Rory and Deva are not here today, but boy do I have a story for you. This is a twisted story about betrayal, murder, alcohol, and alligators. Yes, alligators. This is a story about Joe Ball, aka the Alligator Man, the Butcher of Elmendorf, the Bluebeard of South Texas. So let me start from the beginning. Elmendorf is a small town southeast of San Antonio, about 16 miles more or less. And it was there where his parents, Frank and Elizabeth Ball, decided to settle. They opened up a factory to process cotton. And later the railroad ran through there, which made them wealthy. And they were able to open up a general store, and they were able to buy real estate. So yeah, his parents were pretty wealthy. They were actually the first people to build a stone home in that area. They had 8 children, and their second born was Joe. He was born on January 7th, 1896. People say that he was like a kid that would like kind of stick to himself. He liked fishing and hunting, and he loved guns. I mean, he just really loved guns. As he grew older, he decided to enlist in the army around 1917. This is when the United States declared war against Germany. And by 1919, he received an honorable discharge and returned back to Elmendorf. He started working with his dad at the mill, but I guess decided that that wasn't for him. He had bigger plans. He had more exciting plans. Knowing that during the time of the Prohibition, there was no alcohol sold. So he decided to become a bootlegger. Why not? People make money with that. He sold whiskey and beer, illegally of course, out of a 55-gallon barrel. He made some good money. After the Prohibition, he decided to open up his own tavern, and he named it the Sociable Inn. He later hires a right-hand man named Clifford Wheeler. Clifford was a black man who really feared Joe. People say that Joe would laugh and shoot at his feet and make him dance the jitterbug. Yep, that's right, the jitterbug. I mean, that's really a jerk. Or even worse. So Clifford becomes his right-hand man. He would do all the dirty work for Joe. Then things started to get busy at the bar, so he started to hire some barmaids. And he would only hire the pretty ones. Thank you. He'd actually have someone go out to the bus stop. And I mean, during that time, it was a really little busy town. There was a lot of work. So people would come in through, of course, the bus station. He would send someone out there to scout the area for any new pretty girls that would come into town, and you know, just to let them know that he was willing to hire them at the tavern. So yeah, he did that, and then later on he decides that he needed a little more excitement at the bar, because I guess it was kind of boring. I don't know. He builds a pool in the back of his tavern. He cements it, then he built this really tall wall all around there, and he goes to the San Antonio River and finds alligators. He finds like 5 or 6 alligators and brings them to the back of the tavern and puts them in the pool. So, you know, after his place was busy, yes, he started charging so that people could come and watch the alligators eat other animals. Little animals he would throw into the alligator pit. I'm talking cats, puppies, raccoons, whatever he could find, even wild animals. that he could find and feed them to the gators. And the crowd would go wild. It was also known that they had orgies at that bar. There was a bedroom in there. I mean, it was just a crazy place. I mean, what do you expect from a psycho, right? In 1934, he met Minnie Gotthard. She was from Seguin, Texas. People would call her Big Minnie. A lot of people didn't like her. They said that she was rude and, you know, she was just a big old jerk also. But for some reason, she got along with Joe. And they both ran the business together. Big Minnie was just so in love with Joe. It was crazy. People would say that she would just do anything for Joe. He didn't treat her well, but still, she was in love with him. But then the plot thickens. A new barmaid comes to town by the name of Dolores Goodman. And Joe just was infatuated with her. He fell in love with her. He decides that he wants to marry her. But Minnie has some big news for Joe. She tells him that he's pregnant. All of a sudden, Minnie goes missing. He ends up marrying Dolores, which poor Dolores, she didn't know what she was getting herself into. People said that Joe was really mean to her also. He throws a bottle across the bar and hits Dolores in the face, cutting her from her eye down to her jawline. Poor Dolores. But he does mention to Dolores that he killed Minnie. But then another barmaid comes into the tavern by the name of Hazel Brown, also known as Shatsy. Well, Shatsy certainly caught his eye, and he was a charmer. He charmed these women. Somehow he got to get these women to be with him. Who knows how many others, because there was many women that worked there that came and went, and some just simply disappeared. Up to 20 disappeared without a trace, including a 16-year-old boy. Anyway, so Shatsy and Dolores become really good friends. And Dolores decides to tell Shatsy the big secret, that Joe had murdered Minnie. Yeah, she told her. In 1938, his wife Dolores has a pretty tragic accident. She lost her left arm. They said that she was making a left turn signal, and back then there was no blinkers, so you had to like stick your arm out to signal that you're making a turn. So when she stuck her left arm out to make a left turn, in her direction was a big truck coming through carrying posts or something like that, is what I've heard, and it ripped off her arm. Poor Dolores. But of course, people spread rumors that it was the gators, that the gators had ripped her arm off. But that wasn't true. Now, not too long after that, Dolores disappears. That's right, the love of his life. She's gone, nowhere to be found. Joe kept Shatsy as his lover. But then this guy comes into town and he charms Shatsy, offers her a better life, and she decides to take it. She's like, you know, I mean, what do I got to lose? Things are going to be better. So I'm out of here. The opportunity is there. I'm taking it. She decides to let Joe know. So she tells him, you know, hey, I'm going to go ahead and leave. You know, this guy offered me a better life. I'm going. I'm going to take this chance. I don't want to be a barmaid all my life. He did not like that at all. Well, guess what? She ends up missing. Poof, vanished into thin air. Couldn't find her. Nobody could find her. Nobody knew where she was at. But people were talking. People were saying that Joe was feeding these missing women and that young boy to the alligators. That's right. That's what they were saying. That's what the talk was in town. Horrible. Horrid. One day, one of the neighbors confronts Joe and tells him, hey, what's that horrid stench coming from the back of your tavern. It smells like rotten meat. It smells like dead. What is that? Joe was very short-fused, and he threatened that person and told them, hey, you get off my property, you mind your own business. Showed him the pistol. Well, not too long after that, this Hispanic man is out there dove hunting or something like that, and he notices a barrel in the back of Joe's sister's house. It's got flies all over it. It smells really bad, and it seems kind of out of the ordinary to him. The stench is incredible. So he decides to let the police know. He wasn't about to go and ask Joe what was up with that, because everybody knew that Joe was crazy. So after the police making several visits to Joe and coming up with nothing, because Joe always had a great excuse, this time they were hot on his trail. They go to his tavern and tell him that they need to question him and that they want to take him to their station for questioning. Joe tells them, just give me the time to close the tavern up and I'll go ahead and head out there with you. So they agreed. They said okay. They sat at the bar and waited for him to close up. He grabs a beer, downs it, then he goes over to his register. He presses the no sales button and grabs his gun. He shortly points it at the two deputies that arrive, but quickly turns it to himself and shoots himself dead. He shoots himself in their heart, is what they say. Some people say in the head, some people say in the heart, but whatever. Joe's dead. Yeah, questions unanswered, people wondering where everyone's at. I mean, what the heck? They get a hold of Clifford Wheeler. Well, he spills the beans. He tells them everything they need to know. Well, at least about Big Minnie and Shatsy. He said that when Big Minnie told him she was pregnant, he did not like that because it was going to interfere in the relationship he had with Dolores. So he invites Minnie to Ingleside, Texas, to the beach. And Clifford was with them. He gets her really drunk. And when she's not looking, he shoots her in the back of the head. And they buried her in the sand dunes, about 15 feet. Him and Clifford. Poor Clifford. I mean, he was scared of the guy. He was very scared of the guy. So he tells the police that. And then so they question him about the barrel. And he's like, yes. He said, in the barrel was Shatsy. He said, we took her down to the river and buried her there. So he starts to get into the details of it all. And he says that, they took her out of the barrel. And then Joe was waving the gun around, and he told Clifford that they needed to cut her up and bury her. Clifford didn't want to do it. He was afraid. He didn't want anything to do with it, but he had no choice because he was afraid of Joe. So they started to dismember her, and they just both kind of grossed out with it and started throwing up. So they would take breaks and drink some beer or whiskey or whatever it was back then, and till they finally dismembered her and buried her torso, arms, and legs, but not her head. He decided he wanted to burn her head so that they wouldn't identify who it was. So they built a campfire and threw her head in there. Police did find both Minnie and Shatsy. People who heard about it were there. They went to watch them dig up the grave in Ingleside. They watched them dig up the grave by the San Antonio River of Shatsy, and they just couldn't believe it. And they found the jawbone and teeth of Shatsy in the campfire. What a twisted story. Unbelievable. Clifford ends up serving 2 years in prison because he did assist. So I guess they made a little bargain with him and just gave him 2 years for the information. But yeah, they've said that it's been up to 20 people, 20 women that went missing. Some of them did reappear, some of them did not, including Dolores. Dolores was later found in California with her sister, and she told police that there was no way Joe would do that. He was not a bad guy, although she knew about Minnie's death, although he cut her face. But, oh well, I don't know. I don't know what she was thinking. But, yeah. So why did she leave then, right? Although it was never proven if Joe did in fact feed anyone to the alligators, it still remains a mystery. Where did all those women go? That's the question. Thank you for watching, and have a great afternoon, day, or whatever you're up to right now. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe for more stories like these. And also, if you have a missing person or a story that you'd like for us to talk about, please send us an email at chatsofthetwisted@gmail.com. Thanks again. Have a great one. Bye.